Good evening. My name is David Pocket. I'm a great friend and business partner with Stanley Zamar, who's asked me to make this video. It's my understanding. This video is going to be used for training this weekend that Stanley's doing in hard and soft negotiation, but he has other courses, and so the content of this video is around the spirit of negotiation. What I refer to is electronic negotiation. I'll mention the word mediation, I'll mention the word arbitration because the majority of Stanley's work is obviously either the initial 40-hour certification of mediators or the ongoing continuing education. So today is July 19th, 2023. I've been doing this with Stanley for so long, and of course I do it out of my passion and love for this profession. I'm not compensated for doing this, but again, Stanley and I are business partners, and so in the spirit of disclosure, I want to say that up front, and so I support what he's doing because he supports what I do. I've been a mediator since the mid-'80s, probably way before the majority of you all were actively in your profession, but even if you're an older, more, I like to say more mature judge or legal professional, maybe have been mediating for a while, but I've been mediating since '87, and I've done 200 cases, not an abundance, mostly in the '80s, and then now in my second life back in mediation or dispute resolution. Well, Stanley and I possess or obtained a master's degree in conflict resolution from Nova Southeastern. It's where we met about a dozen years ago. And Stanley has been a minority partner and then now an active partner in my company, which has had a few different names, product names, as we've tried to figure out what's known as online dispute resolution, ODR. Remember, mediation was first considered ADR, alternative dispute resolution, an alternative to traditional litigation in a traditional way litigators serve their clients. When it was alternative, 99% of the neutrals, mediators, were non-lawyers. But as the court started to look to mediation as a lower cost, easier to understand, easier to use alternative to traditional litigation, the legal community, in my opinion, kind of hijacked mediation, and now it's part of the legal process, and it's not unusual. We'll use the state of Florida as an example for family law, that if you have children or real property, you're going to end up in mediation. Okay. Now the irony is we polled a lot of people, and they don't even like mediation. Meaning, we polled over 500 people in 2014. That we got names of people who had been through mediation, and we wanted to know if they were satisfied, and then several other questions. About 80% didn't consider it a favorable experience. A lot of them considered it an additional cost that they didn't want to incur. A lot of them said it was a complete waste of time, that it didn't resolve. When we went further and investigated, a lot of them were family mediations. I mean, who's ever said around a cocktail, man, I had a good divorce. That was a lot of fun. That's a good mediation. A foreclosure mediation, that's kind of forced upon. The Supreme Court ordered it to the banks. The banks came with their arms folded, counting, looking at their watch, how long do we have to pay for this thing? They weren't going to write off a bunch of principal. Some did write some off, but the foreclosure people go, that was a waste of time. And personal injury. I'm not going to mention names, but some of the larger, or one of the larger principals in PI said to me one time that mediation was fake. I said, fake? Oh, we just do it to get the judge to say we tried it. We checked the box, so to speak. So we started out, and so Stanley asked me to talk about artificial intelligence and its impact on today's mediation and tomorrow. It's kind of funny. The legal industry, and sorry you saw my kneecap. I do have shorts on below, but I did dress up for you guys. That's one of the benefits of doing online dispute resolutions, is you can wear your flip-flops and your shoes, but yet torso up, look professional. We began by trying to move mediation and arbitration to the cloud. And we call that originally Resued. We called that Settle Now. Later, Zip Settle. Our Family Settle, which and I think in this class Stanley mentioned there's a few family lawyers. That's pretty common in Stanley's education practice. And I think there's an HR attorney or two, and that's, again, it's pretty common in the mix of students. I've been doing this with Stanley for 10 years. You probably talked to over 1,000 of his students, and I love it. Like I say, I'm an educator myself. But we took on the challenge of building electronic, mediation processes in the cloud. When COVID happened and the mediators were required to use Zoom for depositions, hearings. I don't know if there's any trials in certain jurisdictions, certain states they did actually do trials with Zoom, but mediation. And so some people say you don't need any ODR software because you can just use Zoom. No, Zoom is a video conferencing piece of software. Our software from the day one was using artificial intelligence. Again, Stanley's going to get mad at me when I veer off the subject, but there's a lot to say and include in the considerations feeding up to the key points I'd like to make. What is AI? Well, it's funny the legal profession is so big on ethics. Big on ethics theoretically, but yet the public perceives that the legal profession is about as ethical as a used car salesperson. So you get a lot of continuing ed hours, you get a lot of ethics hours, but some would argue ethics are, you're struggling. But lawyers don't use technology. And really COVID did more to help force the legal industry to go in that direction. And guess what? We're not going backwards. So finally technology's in there. So now we got AI. And now you got even people like Elon Musk. Oh my God, AI is going to take over the world. It's bad. It could be a real negative thing. And I'm not saying Elon's completely wrong. But it's kind of funny. The legal industry is probably going to slow up the adoption. The train started rolling, and they're going to probably slow it up, saying AI is not ethical. Okay? Now, what is AI? It's actually artificial intelligence. Obviously, our vice president said that the other day on TV. I was kind of, wow. It's machine language. Okay? But it's also intelligence of the software built in. So we've had it in the very beginning. Now let me give you an simple example of one of my competitors, and I won't mention their name right now. But it was founded by a technology company in the online dispute resolution space, founded by lawyers. This particular lawyer and his partner did self-insured cities. I learned by hanging out with those guys that a lot of large cities, medium cities, even small cities, self-insure themselves in certain things. So when there's a dispute or an accident or a city bus hits a car or whatever, they just settle and they write a check versus relying on insurance. So you're negotiating with city and agents of the city versus Geico or State Farm or whatever, some insurance company. So this particular litigator, who was not a technologist, had a case for 5 years in front of one judge. And they just kept on and on and on and on in litigation. And so the old judge was retiring. And he pulls the two attorneys and says, boys, we're not going to give this case to the replacing judge, or my replacement judge. You're going to settle this. And he pulled out 2 envelopes, 2 pieces of paper, 2 pens, told them to go to the opposite side of the room and write down what they wanted to settle. And the judge settled it. Now, the principal, who became one of my competitors, I should say, he was in it before I became one of his competitors, said, heck, I could automate this. AI. Okay? I could ask, what do they want? Keeping it confidential between the two parties. Like if I'm in litigation with Stanley, Stanley puts what he wants, what he'd like, and what he'd actually settle for, a range. And then of course we're talking about financial aspects, but it could be elements of conflict in both heads. And then I do the same. I don't see what Stanley says. He doesn't see what I say. But the software and the AI help negotiate to that overlapping delta range. That's AI. Okay? That's the infancy of online dispute resolution. It's not video conferencing. Video conferencing is for the human contact, so you don't have to drive across the city. You don't have to spend or bill your clients for that. It's convenient. If you have a family matter where there's safety involved, or some two partners that might battle it out or extreme emotions, then they're better not to be in the same room. So this technology would be really good for them. Okay? Next. We use, and it's not a plug on us, but it's a plug on us to explain AI. I have 2 master's degrees in psychology based in conflict resolution, and so I specialize in a subset of the field of psychology called emotional intelligence. Okay, now when I talk about branding, I don't like ADR, I don't like ODR, and I don't like emotional intelligence because emotional combined with intelligence seems to make it like an IQ score. Okay? And it's not. Use divorce again. Both parties have an emotional understanding of their lives based on their childhood in large part. They bring that into the marriage, and then the challenges and the dynamics of the marriage and the emotions. You cheated on me, you stole money, you lied, you didn't mature, whatever. And the emotions crank up, and then the emotions blind us. I hate to say this, some of you divorce attorneys will probably disagree with me. Divorce is actually fairly simple. Division of assets and liabilities, that's almost an algorithm. If you fill out the financial affidavit correctly and in uniform, meaning the husband's looks like the wife's, and more often than not it doesn't, the algorithm could actually do the division of assets and liabilities. Percentage of parental custody. Child support based on the percentage of, right? Again, an algorithm. Is alimony applicable? We don't see alimony as much as we used to. Still around in certain states and jurisdictions. But do you qualify? Yes, no. And then it's an income-based formula and a years-based formula. So theoretically, technically, divorce, as emotional as it is, could be resolved by an algorithm, AI. Okay? Facebook listens to everything we say. Google listens to what we say. Siri listens to what we say. Our phones listen to what we say. All this is artificial intelligence, and it's not all bad. Okay? And it can be used to help. Let me give you another positive. If anybody's heard me speak knows my analogy about selling a car on eBay. You sell a car. Why would you buy a car on eBay? Either it's a one-of-a-kind, unique thing that matches your desires and it's available states away, so the eBay gives you a better searchability, or it's cheaper. A lot of people don't realize that even zip codes affect prices of cars. Cars up north that's been subjected to snow and salt and stuff that melts ice are usually garner less money than if you lived in South Florida your whole life. Okay? So you buy a car on eBay, it says it's never been wrecked, and you're saving money. You look at the person that's selling it, and it says he or she's a trusted reseller, so a lot of cars, a lot of things. You buy it, you get it, you PayPal, meaning let's just use the figure 30,000. You put 30,000 in PayPal. The person ships you the car. Let's say the person's in North Dakota, ships you the car. You get it, you're happy. You tell PayPal to give them the money. They got the money. A week later, you go to your car dealer, getting something done on it. You go, man, I got a really good deal on this car from North Dakota. I say about $5,000 by buying it there and shipping it, whatever. And your mechanic goes, well, it's a pretty nice car, except it's been wrecked. Oh, no, it hasn't. I got the Carfax that says it hasn't been wrecked from the day of the sale, the day I bought it online. Okay, again, I'll say Stanley's selling me the car. So Stanley's living in North Dakota, and I'm now mad at Stanley. I think Stanley's is not only unethical, selling wrecked cars, he's doctoring Carfaxes. I want to call the state attorney general of the state of North Dakota, turn him in, get him a felony charge for doctoring Carfaxes. Well, eBay, they did two things right, besides a lot of other things, but the two primary things right they did is they created and made an arrangement with PayPal to be an escrow. It's a $5 transaction, you don't need to escrow it. But if it's a larger transaction, PayPal made eBay trustworthy. The other thing that made eBay trustworthy is they boast they were resolving over 70 million cases a year, disputes between buyers and sellers on the eBay network. Without any humans. 95% of cases now without any humans. Can you imagine if I was a featured speaker at the American Bar Association and I said, hey, I got a piece of software here that could settle disputes 95% without humans? That wouldn't be very popular with a lawyer community. But guess what? It's a real possibility with AI. Okay? I'll finish this in a second. Back to finish the story about the car. So what happens is when I go to dispute buying the car, and I think Stanley's duped me by not being honest, first thing it says when you go on eBay and you find a dispute engine, is it on the Mercedes E350 you just bought? Yeah, well, it remembers that. That's a form of artificial intelligence or software intelligence. Then it says, what is the reason for the dispute? There's a pull down box. One of the choices is undisclosed accident. When I say undisclosed accident, it pulls up, was it a Carfax or auto check? You can choose both boxes, you can choose one. And then it sends you the fine print from their contract. And guess what one of the fine print items is? We're not responsible for the last 90 days. Why? Stanley could have bought it from Joe Smith. Joe Smith gave me the Carfax dated the day Stanley bought it. But Joe Smith might have just picked it up from the body shop. The body shop has 90 days to inform Carfax. Okay? Moral is, Stanley may not have known, but I didn't know because I didn't even know what the fine print of Carfax was, and I didn't know they weren't responsible. So then I take the emotion where I was so mad at Stanley and I wanted to call the state attorney general, and now I get the fine print. I go, oh, it diffuses my anger, and it focuses me back on what is at issue. What do I want from Stanley? So then it asks me, what do I want? Okay? And I said, I'd like to have $3,500. Now I just pull that out, I'll let Sky. Then it'll come back, the AI, is it a Kelley Blue Book value determined? Yes. Then the software comes back and they'll show the Kelley Blue Book for North Dakota and Clearwater, that's where I live. Okay? And there could be a delta, and there likely is a delta. And so we'd be asking you, is the $3,500 tied to these values? Yes. Stanley gets my request. He sees that I'm upset. He sees I'm asking for $3,500. Well, what could I do to Stanley? Really? I could trash him, saying he's selling doctored Carfax and wrecked cars as not. I could sue him. But I got to go hire an attorney in North Dakota. And by the time I get this attorney in North Dakota and then get into courts, and I might be in there for 12 months, it's probably a small claims thing. I might end up in mediation. But who knows if Stanley's even going to be living in North Dakota? Who knows if Stanley even has $3,500? Who knows, maybe Stanley got out of that business. Maybe it's the last car he ever sold. Okay? It behooves the eBay network to have it trusted because it's interstate, right? So what are the laws in North Dakota? I don't know. I don't know anybody in North Dakota. What are the laws in Florida? What is the prevailing law? So eBay didn't want to get involved in that. And guys, if you don't think that we're going to get to a national legal system in the spirit of what I'm talking about, we are. Okay? These little domains that you all protected for so long is going to get blown up. Uber and Lyft blew up transportation. I don't think the cab companies, the limo companies, and the transportation authorities were real happy with eBay. Doctors, telemedicine. You can call get a doctor and get a prescription at your pharmacy and think, why wait till Monday till you can call the doctor and get in his or her office? Maybe the appointment's not till Wednesday. Second minute clinics and CVS's and that, Walgreens, any drugstore. Go in a minute clinic, get seen by a nurse practitioner or a doctor, whatever it is, get your prescription. Why go to the doctor? The legal community hadn't had those challenges until now, and they're getting ready to. Okay? So that's an example of AI at work. I can go a lot deeper. I could go, Stanley asked me to keep this about 30 minutes. I could go 3 days on just AI. So is it unethical? Well, yeah, if we're trying to create a piece of software to act like a judge, and by the way, I don't care what anybody says. Maybe there's some, in many of Stanley's classes, there's usually 1 or 2 judges. Okay? Get your robe, and you made all these decisions all these years. Now you're a mediator. Okay? Sometimes I'll argue the judges are the worst mediators of anybody. No disrespect. It's just take off your robe, get rid of all your legal knowledge, because mediation and negotiation is not a legal process. Okay? It's not. It's a neutral working with the 2 parties to come up with a resolution. One of the worst things, in my opinion, of course it's easy for me to say as a non-lawyer mediator, the worst thing that's ever happened to mediation is allowing lawyers to come. I know Stanley. I know he's one of the best mediators, in my opinion. And I know if he was left with just the 2 disputing parties without lawyers, he'd be much more effective. Okay? All right, so AI, judges are biased economically, sexually, culturally, blah, 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 blah. I don't care what, everybody. But a machine isn't biased. Okay? The software isn't biased. So in many ways, AI could be more ethical if managed. Several years ago, I tried to get the larger law firms in the state to join behind me in establishing a thought center, thought leadership center for AI in Florida. And have Florida take the lead for the ethical utilization of AI in disputes in law. There wasn't much interest because lawyers don't ignore technology. Okay? So I'm going to refer to my phone 1 second. I know I'm not supposed to look down at that. I'm trying to keep good eye contact, but I want to make sure I stay on Stanley's orders of what he wanted me to cover for you guys. He's asking me, what do you have to look forward to? Well, that's a funny one. I could see how you've got to adapt and change how you service the client. So, since Stanley mentioned there's 1 or 2 or more family attorneys, okay? My competitor, he's no longer running the company he was running. He ran a company called Modria, and they got bought out by Tyler Technologies. But 5-7 years ago, there was an article in American Trial Lawyer magazine about ODR, online dispute resolution. By the way, let me take a pivot point. Our methodology for my company, Stanley's company, is called TEDR, Technology Enhanced Dispute Resolution, not technology to replace. ODR goes, online dispute resolution. It's all computers. You have to have a human element. When we studied at Nova, there was a whole required course in the master's and PhD program called Human Elements. And we don't believe you can resolve disputes without humans. You got 2 humans in a dispute, and we think it's going to take, does it have to be a mediator, Supreme Court certified? No. I'm thinking about training AARP members to resolve disputes with our software. I don't need any mediator. It's not a legal process. So the world's going to change, guys. Stanley said, what do they got to look forward to? Maybe you don't. You've got to figure out new ways to use this technology to serve your clients better. Okay? My company in a new site, we're launching a new site. It's already up. It looks not good, and I don't want it to look good right now because I don't want my competitors to know exactly what I'm doing, and maybe I shouldn't be telling you all this. But I'm going to offer what I call, it's going to have a better name than this, old school mediation. If I was talking to y'all live, I would stop and say, all right, who wants to take a guess what old school mediation is? To me, old school mediation is mediation you can't bring your lawyer. There's a market for that, by the way. Back to the family law. The technology I had when I was going to Nova, they had our degrees came out of the Department of Psychology, College of Psychology. It's College of Arts and Sciences, Psychology, Conflict Resolution. And next to us was the family therapy. And Dr. Arlene Gordon ran it at the time. She may still. I haven't stayed in touch with Nova. And this is a decade ago. Arlene and I talked about, could you do family counseling online? So no, you got to be in the room. You got to touch them. You got to know whatever, because that's the way lawyers, they see the courtroom as their theater, and this online stuff. No, that's the future, guys. Sorry, we can't. You remember that Taj Mahal courtroom we built up in Tallahassee for millions and millions of dollars? Taxpayers can't do that anymore. We don't need to go to court. Okay. One of my competitors was called virtualcourthouse.com. It was started by a judge. I said, Judge, I like the name, Virtual Courthouse. But is it going to be Virtual Courthouse Maryland? He was from Maryland. Virtual Courthouse Florida, for Kentucky, Virtual Courthouse. Is the states going to give it up, or is this going to be one national virtual courthouse? But technically it could be. Practically, the parochial thought of disputes and the jurisdiction. We got 20 jurisdictions, I believe, in Florida, just in Florida. And while they all answer to the Supreme Court, they still do stuff, Chief Judge, a little bit differently. They got different computer systems. Okay? What's the future? AI. Do we need to be worried about the ethics? Not really. Do we need to be fearing? When Elon was talking and making public statements about fear, the government's talking about it, and there's an article that 80% of the jobs 5 years from now will be alleviated because of AI. It's a pretty scary thought, isn't it? Is that 80% of lawyers? Sorry, I like making lawyer jokes. That wouldn't be a bad thing. Probably some of the active practicing lawyers would like to see 80% lawyers because there's too many. Okay? So just like Uber drivers, they're going to have to figure out new ways to set. Why do we only primarily represent clients with contingency fee or retainers? Accountants and consultants a long time ago redefined how they package their services. They call it advisory services. When there's a conflict, yes, use divorce as a matter. How's child support determined? How's custody percentages determined? How's alimony determined? These are legal questions, and y'all have that club that y'all can pull out. UPL, unauthorized practice of law. Come on, folks. All of our friends talk to each other when they have a psychological problem. Very much a minority go to psychologists. Most psychologists are not in high rises with names on the outside of the building. Most of them are in C, Class D commercial space and small strip malls on the back side, charging a few dollars. And nobody can afford to go, and if the insurance don't cover, they go one or two times. But you lawyers have done a contingency or retainer models. Why don't y'all just sell services, advisory, okay? And in our new site, you're going to be able to get old school mediation. That means mediation without a lawyer, using the technology, okay? And you're going to get access to lawyers on an hourly basis in order to get a discount. Ask some email questions, and I'll answer them for X dollars. Have a after hours video conference, video call, Skype, Zoom, FaceTime. Facebook has video chatting. Everybody has video chatting. So you could have a phone call after hours, discounted. The attorney can call and here's her way home from that. Or at night, like Uber drivers are going to make up some part-time, log on and answer questions for clients. You got to serve your clients differently, folks, because we're not going to do it the way we've done it the last 200 years. So I'll conclude with highlights. AI is not bad, but AI has to be managed. There has to be rules and regulations, and we're not trying to create avatar judges. That would be a bad utilization of AI. But my examples of AI and machine language is where the technology is helping the mediator. Just imagine if all the information about the dispute, all the discovery, and all of what the two parties wanted to accept, would accept, was in a system and a mediator could see it before they begin mediation, think about how powerful that might be. Think about how that might change. Now, of course, mediation hourly rates have went down, and if you want to have a 10-minute mediation, you don't get paid. It's not worth your time. Okay? Volume, different way to serve, and probably subcontractors, 1099 people. I always joke, what does Uber and Lyft have in common with the real estate market? I had a client called Prudential Florida Realty. They had about 65 offices 10, 15 years ago. With 65 offices, we had 3,000 agents. They only had about 100 employees in the whole company because everybody was a subcontractor. All of the Uber drivers, Lyft drivers are subcontractors, 1099. Lawyers are going to be the same, guys. Sorry. I'm not here to talk about just the economic. I was here to talk about AI. But it's going to change. Now, lastly, the term electronic negotiation. Okay, what is electronic negotiation? Okay, it's the software assisting the two parties. My software, our software, sorry Stanley, it's our company software, has an assessment for emotional intelligence. And the assessment of emotional intelligence is like a Myers-Briggs personality test. Once we know how the emotions of the makeup of the parties, we can phrase, and the computer and the AI can phrase that. You probably don't realize this, but when you call Amazon customer service, they have software that's sensing the intonations and anger in your voice. And the prompts on the screens to the offshore people are telling them how to interact with you based on your emotions. AI, guys, that's what we do. Okay? So we can do way more. You lawyers were not trained. Some of you might have had psychology in undergraduate. Some of y'all might have a psychology graduate degree. But in law school, there's not a lot of psychology or how to manage emotions. Okay? There's not very few law schools 20 years ago, almost none, and very few today teach negotiation. Real true negotiation techniques. Think about that guy, Chris, God, I lost his name right now, Goss. No, Chris Voss, V-O-S-S. Chris is the FBI negotiator. He says, Split the Difference. It's one of his books. Great negotiation book. I highly recommend it if you haven't read it. But he begins saying, when you're negotiating for hostages, you got 4 of them, or you got 5 of them, you can't go, give me 2, and you keep 2. It's a day. You got to get all 4 or 5 of those things out. So you have to employ negotiation in the truest sense. Electronic negotiation is really good done by AI. You lawyers don't do negotiation. You really don't. I'm sorry. I hope I'm not setting on you. You're not trained in classic negotiation. Okay? You're not trained in classic psychology of emotional management, emotional intelligence management. So I hope I helped you. Sorry, Stanley, I'm 3 minutes over. I hope this is reusable for Stanley, although I do like to be invited. Look us up. I'm David Puckett. I'm on LinkedIn, P-U-C-K-E-T-T. I live in Tampa Bay, Treasure Island. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, all the other social media, TikTok and all that, I'm there. Look at our website, avoidcourt.com, ourfamilysettle.com, divorce, the modification of child family plans. That's a whole sub business that you could do with this technology if you're a divorce lawyer. Okay? HRsettle.com, HR disputes, Our Home Settle, foreclosure, eviction, real estate, a homeowners association, and real estate conflicts that need to get resolved so they can keep the sale on track timely and don't have time to litigate. So that's our URLs. And lastly, look at our it's pretty not organized well, but this video will be on it. Stanley will copy the link of the video to show it to you guys in Zoom. But look on our YouTube channel, TEDR TV, TEDR TV, Technology Enhanced Dispute Resolution TV. You can see my old 60-year-old mug on there. I got some videos from last summer when we announced my patent, the patent for the new technology, and avoidcourt.com. So good night, or good afternoon, good evening. It's night here. I'm recording this at 8:30 Wednesday night. thank you all, and God bless, and reach out if you'd like me to speak at any conventions, large groups, bar association groups. I enjoy doing this, okay? Thank you. I'm reaching up to turn off the button. I don't have an assistant or I don't have my little clicker. Thank you.